Andrew, you still there? I asked you what your series was. Maybe we can look it up on Substack for you.
Well, I know he is working while he listens, so he might not be able to stop and type. So if we don't see an answer from him in a few minutes, we'll remind him again.
We'll slap him. How many words is this story?
Actually, this is fairly short. If we want to give this an on-air read, or if Black Knight wants us to do that, I'm willing to do that.
If Black Knight really wants it, I can read part of it as Eric Cartman.
Yeah. We do another paragraph as Eric Cartman.
Yeah,
it's actually really
hold up. Go back down. Go back
Yeah.
down. Go back down. Hold up, and then go back up to the last sentence. Now read that as Eric Cartman.
The very last paragraph?
The very last sentence.
I am a dirty peon, and this is the embarrassing tale of my ineptitude.
Oh, that is pretty short. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you got to read the first paragraph.
Okay. Are we doing this? I mean,
yeah, go for it.
Read it in orc voice. Well, Eric Cartman. I hope the Eric Cartman voice will suffice.
The peon crawled out from his stinking hover, holding a crumpled sheet of paper covered with scribbles from top to bottom. The tired fingers of his right hand were still clutching the worn-out, ancient pen, the tool of his trade. He slowly walked towards the light, limbs aching, and before stepping out in the grand square, he took a deep breath. His lungs refused to obey, and one long coughing fit later, he finally walked into the light. Gnarled old fingers holding a sheet of paper in pen high, the peon uttered with his sickly voice, "I wrote this."
Respect my authority.
You really have to respect my authority. Many tired, sad peons watched him from the windows of their hovers. Mothers covered their children's eyes. Fathers shielded the babes' ears, for they knew what was about to transpire. First there was the silence, and then, emanating from his throne, came the blinding light of knowledge. So powerful was this radiance that the peon's scribbles were instantly consumed by fire, and with smoldering hands, crying, he fell to his knees. His eyes were closed shut, yet he almost lost his sight. Then came the words, just as mighty as the light they shook every hovel and then the ground upon which he knelt. Worthless, fed with egregious errors, piece of garbage.
Am I continuing with this?
It's up to you.
Just say the word and I'll stop.
Oh, I'm
If you're willing to keep going, please keep going.
Very well.
You sound like
Peon.
Cartman, man. Almost to a T.
The peon's ears bled. So strong was the voice of judgment. The knowledge of this great sage could only be matched by the gods themselves. You should be embarrassed by these pathetic scribbles of yours, peon. With smoldering fingers, the peon grabbed his pen and crawled on all fours, away from the grand square, far from the most gifted sage, and back to his stinking hover he ride, back where he belonged. The peon sat on the earthen floor, and while his aching old bones rested, he dressed his blistered hands. Surrounded by his meager possessions, the peon tore pieces from his dilapidated shirt and bandaged himself. A plank he could rest his hands in right, one hoe-ridden blanket to cover his sickly, old body with while he slept. Broken this hover was, fetid and damp, yet it was much better than living outside in the cold wind. He drank a glass of tap water and ate his last slice of mouldy bread. Then the peon marked something on his calendar. One more year had slipped away from under his gnarled fingers. He was painfully aware that about a dozen or so was still left. Just like all other peons, when he expired, he'd be quickly forgotten, left to rot in some damp hole. Oh, how he dreamt he had more time to learn. How much he wished he was born with even a tiny bit of talent. But he was a dirty peon after all. Only supreme beings like the great sage. Only they descended from the heavens bestowed with godly ability. It was them who were gifted. The peon's lot was to work, while the sages judged them from atop their shining thrones. It was the way of this world. The peon summoned what little skill he had, and concentrated to the best of his ability. He still had a couple of years left, and knew that the only way forward was to work without rest, to create more. He very much wished before his departure from this plane that at least one of his goals could be achieved. One day, if he worked harder than his peers, he could ascend and no longer be a mere 7th level peon. However slim this possibility was, he was prepared to toil without end in order to fulfill his dream. Maybe then he would be remembered, and instead of a damp hole, his body will be buried in a proper grave, with tombstone and everything. The peon took one crumpled sheet of paper with shaking, bleeding fingers. He straightened it as best he could and then wrote, I am a dirty peon, and this is the embarrassing tale of my ineptitude. End quote.
Jesus fuck. That's surprised you read the whole thing. Andrew Campbell also said his anthology is called Feral for Nightmare Fuel Magazine.
Ooh, nice.
Now your voice is fucked.
Not
Yeah,
really.
you need a drink, Otter?
I'm pretty okay for the moment. That's actually not too straining of a voice on me.
Now we pull up Maya Morton.
Oh god. We're
Please don't.
continuing this charade, aren't we?
No, we're not.
Okay.
Dude, that
fair
would
enough.
fuck your voice up so bad because you'd have to read it. So you have to stop, think, and then read the bad grammar in Eric Cartman.